The five-star restaurant Lumier Grand shimmered with opulence. Golden chandeliers glowed brilliantly, reflecting off Alexandra Kale's icy diamond jewelry as she entered. The notoriously cold 32-year-old CEO commanded attention the moment she stepped through the doors. Her deep brown skin glowed against the stark white of her designer dress. Her natural hair, styled in an elegant twist, spoke of wealth and precision. Alexandra entered with her 6-year-old son, Leo, whose beautiful brown face was twisted with anxiety. He tightly clutched her expensive designer dress, whispering urgently, "Mom, I'm scared of the crowd." Alexandra was heading to the VIP section, her heels clicking authoritatively against the marble floor when she abruptly stopped. Her sharp eyes, the eyes that had negotiated billion-dollar deals, landed on something unexpected. She saw a single dad, weary but smiling, in a faded shirt, expertly cutting pasta for his giggling 7-year-old daughter. His skin was a rich, warm brown, his close-cropped hair showing flecks of gray at the temples. His hands moved with practiced care, the kind of care that spoke of years of solo parenting. Leo froze, utterly captivated by the scene before him. The little girl's laughter rang out, pure and uninhibited, her brown skin glowing with joy, her braided hair bouncing as she giggled. Alexandra frowned deeply, her perfectly arched eyebrows drawing together. "Leo, stop staring at that humble table." But the boy whispered with an intensity that shocked her, "Mom, I want to sit next to them." Henry Vale, 36 years old, was exhausted but happy. His deep brown skin showed the lines of a man who worked 2 demanding jobs, a delivery driver by day and a building maintenance man by night, all to provide for his 7-year-old daughter, Louisa. Their life was frugal but rich in love, despite their limited budget. Henry always made sure to take Louisa out for a special, inexpensive weekend meal to celebrate small victories. Today was especially important. Louisa had brought home a perfect report card, every subject marked with stars and glowing comments from her teacher. Lumier Grand was far out of their league, but Henry had found a small hidden cafe next door that served excellent pasta. When a staff member at the cafe mistakenly seated them in a quiet, low-profile corner of the main, high-end Lumier Grand dining area, Henry didn't correct them. He feared the shame of being moved, the humiliation of being told they didn't belong. He simply wanted Louisa to enjoy the fancy lights for just one evening, to feel special in a world that often made people like them feel invisible. Louisa was a ray of sunshine, bright, curious, and remarkably friendly, always eager to strike up a conversation with anyone nearby. Her brown eyes sparkled with wonder as she admired the shimmering chandeliers, her small brown fingers pointing excitedly at each detail. She was entirely unaware that the most powerful, most photographed woman in the city was about to walk into her life. Alexandra Kale, meanwhile, had chosen this evening for a carefully orchestrated soft media reintroduction to the public. It was a controlled moment of humanity to counteract her icy corporate image. She had planned to take the discreet VIP table, smile for a few calculated photos, and leave. But Leo refused to budge. "Mom, I want to sit with that girl." Leo insisted, pulling her sleeve with unprecedented determination. His brown face was set with unusual stubbornness. She looked so happy. Alexandra, a woman whose life revolved around logic and corporate strategy, was surprised by her son's raw, uncharacteristic display of emotion. He was usually as reserved as she was, trained by circumstance and wealth to be quiet, controlled. She realized with a sharp pang that her own wealth had bought him silence, not joy. A nervous floor manager, Bernie, approached Alexandra, his eyes darting nervously between her and the modest table where Henry and Louisa sat. He whispered urgently, his voice dripping with condescension. "Madam, that family, they may not be suitable for your seating area." Perhaps the main dining room would be more. Alexandra looked from her son's pleading brown eyes to the manager's condescending face. Her corporate edge returned, cold and decisive, her voice dropping to that temperature that made board members tremble. "My son decides," she stated flatly. She walked straight to Henry's small, inconspicuous corner table, her expensive perfume announcing her arrival before her words did. Henry looked up and nearly choked on his water. He found himself face to face with Alexandra Kale, the woman whose face graced every business magazine, whose name was synonymous with power and wealth. Her brown skin seemed to glow with an otherworldly sheen, and her presence filled the entire corner of the restaurant. Alexandra skipped the pleasantries. Her delivery was direct, almost startling. "My son wishes to join your table. May we?" Louisa, delighted by the prospect of a new playmate, beamed, her gap-toothed smile lighting up her entire face. "Yes, you can sit right here, miss." Henry, flustered by the overwhelming presence of the billionaire, quickly pulled out a chair for her. His calloused hands, marked by years of hard work, trembled slightly as he did so. In that moment, he felt a profound sense of disorientation. She belonged to another world entirely. Why would she want to sit with them? The two children instantly connected. Leo, reserved moments ago, was captivated by Louisa's infectious laughter and her easygoing nature. They spoke about school, cartoons, and their father's superpowers, their brown faces animated with excitement, their heads bent together like old friends. Henry and Alexandra, two people worlds apart in wealth and status, sat in an awkward, profound silence, the only thing they shared being the deep, protective love for their children. As Henry gently finished cutting Louisa's pasta into perfect, manageable pieces, Leo leaned over the table, his eyes fixed on the task with fascination. Alexandra watched Henry's hands, strong, scarred hands that had clearly known hard work, hands that were so different from her own manicured fingers. She realized that Henry, despite his modest job, provided a fundamental tactile connection that her highly paid assistants and nannies simply could not replicate. Her world was one of delegation. Henry's was one of personal execution and care. The contrast was devastatingly clear. The boy asked Henry, his voice soft with genuine need, "Sir, can you cut mine for me? To—" Alexandra froze entirely. Her son, Leo, had never asked anyone other than his full-time nanny to perform such a simple, loving act. He trusted this stranger instantly, recognizing the pure intention in his kindness. A group of powerful clients seated at a nearby table immediately noticed the scene. The aloof billionaire sitting awkwardly with a visibly poor single father, their brown faces turned toward the unusual tableau with naked curiosity and judgment. Whispers started circulating, sharp and judgmental. Is she having a crisis? Perhaps a very literal public relations stunt. Direct charity. Alexandra, who despised gossip, tensed, ready to stand up and end the dinner, but Leo's small hand gripped her arm, his brown eyes pleading. "Mom, I like him. He's like a superhero." Louisa, ever loyal, chimed in, her voice ringing with pride. "My daddy is a superhero. He can fix anything. He even fixed a whole apartment building's furnace last week." Alexandra found herself smiling, a genuine human smile she rarely allowed herself. It was a moment of true unscripted warmth, something her cold world desperately lacked. Henry, keenly aware of the growing spectacle, quickly ordered the cheapest item on the menu, knowing he couldn't afford anything else. His brown fingers trembled slightly as he pointed to the item, his voice quiet. Leo, watching Louisa eat with delight, declared cheerfully, "I want the same dish as Louisa." The waiter, Ronnie, recognizing Henry's worn shirt and cheap watch, looked him up and down with overt contempt. His lip curled slightly as he addressed Henry with thinly veiled derision. "Can you afford that?" "Sir, that is a premium dish. We don't accept charity for our patrons." Alexandra's eyes flashed with cold anger. Her entire body stiffened, and when she spoke, her voice dropped several degrees, each word cutting like ice. "Bring 2 more servings and send the check to my corporate account immediately." Ronnie recoiled, stammering an apology as he hurried away, his face flushed with embarrassment. A prominent society woman, Hilda, from the nearby table couldn't contain her spite. She was an older black woman who had climbed the social ladder through marriage and inheritance, and she looked down on those she considered beneath her with particular cruelty. She spoke loudly enough for the whole restaurant to hear, her voice dripping with condescension. "I thought the Kale dynasty dined with the elite, not janitors." "What a spectacle, Alexandra. Your public image will never recover from this slumming." Henry lowered his face, his brown skin darkening with shame. He was already accustomed to this casual contempt, the constant reminder of his perceived failure. Louisa, however, was furious. She stood up on her chair, her small brown chest swelling with protective indignation, her braids swinging with the force of her movement. "My daddy is better than everyone here. He helps people. You are all mean." Leo immediately stood up too, joining her side, his voice strong and clear. "Mr. Henry is better than all the boring drivers at my house. He knows how to smile." Alexandra watched the 2 children standing together. A small, fierce, protective army around Henry. It was the most animated, passionate thing she had ever seen her son do. She felt a surge of loyalty, realizing that Henry, the maintenance man, was the most honorable person in the room. But the moment of connection was brutally interrupted. Alexandra's personal assistant, Farah, rushed into the restaurant, eyes wide with panic. Her brown face was pale with fear. "Miss Kale, emergency board meeting. Someone is trying to stage a corporate coup. They have evidence." The entire restaurant turned to watch. Alexandra's face, usually so composed, went visibly pale. Her hand began to tremble uncontrollably. The pressure, the exhaustion of fighting to maintain control, finally shattered her carefully constructed facade. Henry, instantly assessing her condition, recognized the physiological signs: acute stress leading to hypoglycemic collapse. His trauma training, dormant for years, kicked in instantly. He didn't hesitate. He grabbed the glass of water and a packet of sugar from a discarded coffee service and shoved them into her hand. His hands moved with the speed and precision of a man who made split-second life or death decisions. The floor staff whispered in astonishment. How did he know before the assistant even noticed he just fixed the Billionaire? Alexandra drank the sweet cold water, and after a few frantic minutes, her breathing stabilized. She looked up at Henry, her brown eyes wide with shock and gratitude, her voice trembling. Why did you help me? You didn't owe me anything after the way they treated you." Henry's gaze was steady, focused on Leo, who was now clutching his mother's arm, terrified. "Because your son needs his mother alive," he said simply, "and no mother, regardless of who she is, should collapse in front of her child." As the color returned to Alexandra's cheeks, a profound realization washed over her. Lying back in the expensive leather booth, surrounded by people who relied on her wealth and power, the only person who saw her as a vulnerable human being was the man everyone else had dismissed. He didn't see the CEO, the target, or the charity case. She thought he just saw a mother in danger. That level of simple humanity was alien to her world. She realized that in the moment of her greatest weakness, her enormous wealth had been utterly useless. Once Alexandra was stable, she quietly ushered Henry and the children into the restaurant's private VIP lounge, a sanctuary of leather and mahogany, to talk without the intrusive eyes of the media and the guests. Leo and Louisa were already engaged in a game of tag, their innocent laughter echoing softly through the opulent room, their brown faces glowing with joy. Alexandra sat opposite Henry, finally letting her guard down. She sighed, the sound heavy with the weight of her empire. They are trying to discredit me by spreading rumors that I am not mentally or physically fit to run the company. They need a medical crisis, and I just gave them one on camera. Henry looked at his teacup thoughtfully, his brown fingers wrapped around the delicate china. Which is why you experience the acute stress response. It wasn't the food. It was the fear of losing control. You are running on empty. Miss Kale. Alexandra looked up, surprised. You read that accurately. What is your background, Henry? You speak like a therapist or a strategist. The way you acted was instinctual, professional. Henry hesitated, avoiding her penetrating gaze. Then Leo ran in, pulling at his sleeve with both small hands. Tell the story about the time you saved someone. Uncle Henry, the one about the smoke. Alexandra looked at Henry. Her curiosity piqued, her dark eyes searching his face. Henry let out a long breath, deciding to share the truth he had kept hidden for years. I was an emergency trauma doctor in the military, he revealed. The confession was painful. I specialized in combat field medicine and acute psychological triage. That's why I recognized your symptoms instantly. He paused, the true weight of his secret falling heavily on the room. But I left the field entirely after my wife died from a surgical error. I couldn't save her. I decided I didn't deserve to save anyone else. He explained further, his voice raspy with old pain, his brown hands clenching into fists. It wasn't just a regular mistake. I was deployed, consulting on a life-saving procedure miles away. Her doctor called me for advice mid-surgery. I gave the guidance thinking I was helping. But the procedure failed. I was saving other people. But I was unavailable to save the one person who mattered most. Even by proxy. I felt like my dedication to my career, to being the best trauma doctor, had created a distance that killed her. So I stopped. I traded saving the world for securing Louisa's single small world where I could never be too far away. Alexandra's eyes softened, recognizing the profound grief and guilt hidden behind his simple life. It was the first time she saw the man, not the maintenance worker, a man who had traded global contribution for quiet penance. Then the first twist arrived. Leo, who had been laughing moments before, suddenly stopped running. His face went white, and he gripped his chest, his small brown body rigid with fear. Alexandra panicked. Leo, what's wrong? Henry, the trauma doctor, immediately resurfacing, grabbed the boy's wrist and checked his pulse, his fingers finding the rapid flutter instantly. His heart rate is spiking. He is having an acute panic attack triggered by seeing his primary caregiver collapse. Leo hyperventilated, tears streaming down his brown cheeks. Mom, I'm scared you'll get hurt. I'm scared you'll disappear. All the nannies say you work too much and one day you won't come back. Alexandra tried to hold him, but Leo recoiled slightly, clinging to her dress, his small body rigid with fear. Alexandra realized she didn't know how to console him. She managed billions, but she couldn't calm her own son. Her sense of failure absolute. Henry, seeing Alexandra's helplessness, took decisive action. He scooped the terrified boy into his arms, holding him close to his chest, his strong brown arms creating a safe cocoon. It's okay. I'm right here. You're safe. Breathe with me. He demonstrated the rhythmic pattern of breathing he used for soldiers in shock, grounding Leo in the present moment. He spoke in a low, even tone, distracting Leo with simple sensory questions. Leo, can you feel my shirt? What color is it? Can you count the lights above us? Leo followed Henry's steady rhythm. Minutes later, the boy's breathing normalized. He relaxed fully against Henry's chest, a complete physical surrender. He whispered, You smell like clean air, Uncle Henry. Alexandra watched the scene. Henry, the single dad, holding her fragile son, and her eyes welled up with silent tears. She had never seen such instant, profound trust placed in anyone outside of herself. She realized her wealth had robbed her son of the simple security that Henry provided. Naturally, this single brief exchange of physical comfort was more powerful than years of purchased childcare. The second twist immediately followed. Farah, Alexandra's assistant, burst back into the room, phone pressed to her ear, yelling in panic. "Miss Kale, the video of you collapsing in the restaurant is going viral. The board is meeting to invoke the fitness clause. They will use it to strip you of your position." Alexandra sank into the chair, devastated. "They will use this public weakness against me. It's over." Henry stood up, his voice decisive and firm. The voice of a man who made critical decisions under fire, his brown eyes blazing with determination. "You are not a cold CEO, Miss Kale. You are a mother, and they are using your motherhood against you." Alexandra broke down, the tears finally flowing freely down her brown cheeks. "No one," she choked out. "No one has ever said that to me before. Everyone just sees the corporation." Henry placed his hand on her shoulder, his touch gentle but grounding. "Let me help you. You don't fight a coup with power. You fight it with truth." He quickly and methodically analyzed the situation, the timing of the board meeting, Farah's sudden appearance, the immediate leak of the video. He saw the operation not as a business problem, but as a hostile tactical maneuver. The person running this coup needed more than just a boardroom vote, Henry stated, pointing to the facts with precision. They needed public outrage to pressure the external shareholders. The swiftness of the viral video leak combined with your assistant's exact panic timing proves this was coordinated. The head of operations, Clinton Drain, has always wanted your chair. He hired the assistant specifically to gather compromising evidence. That leak was intentional, designed to look accidental. He accurately identified the hidden player behind the corporate conspiracy, the reason for the attack, and the exact strategy needed to spin the media narrative. We don't deny the collapse. We reframe it. We call it what it is: a mother's exhaustion from fighting a hostile corporate takeover designed to damage her family's legacy. We turn his weapon, the video, into your testament to sacrifice. Alexandra was astonished. "You're thinking 10 steps ahead of my legal team. You could be my chief strategist and medical advisor rolled into one. You see the human factor in the cold math of power." Henry shook his head, his brown face humble. "I only know one thing. Your son needs you to be strong. We turn this weakness into your greatest strength, your humanity." He turned to Louisa and Leo, both children watching with wide eyes. "Kids, Mommy and Daddy have a big mission. We need to save the company so Mommy can keep buying you all the pasta you want." The children cheered instantly, their fear replaced by a sense of purpose. Leo ran to Henry, hugging his waist tightly, his small brown arms wrapped around the man who had become his anchor. "Please don't leave us. Uncle Henry, I need you to stay with Mommy." Alexandra, utterly humbled and grateful, invited Henry and Louisa back to her opulent mansion for dinner as a formal thank you. Leo was waiting by the door when they arrived, greeting Louisa like a long-lost sister. They immediately ran off to explore the grand house, their combined laughter filling the previously echoing halls. They found Leo's colossal playroom, which was full of unopened, expensive toys. Louisa immediately began showing Leo how to build a secret base using old blankets and cushions. It was an exercise in simple imagination that Leo had never experienced. The mansion, which Alexandra had always felt was a cold monument to her success, suddenly felt like a home. Henry entered the magnificent living room, feeling completely out of place. He adjusted his collar nervously, his brown fingers fumbling with the fabric. "This place, it doesn't belong to me." Alexandra offered a gentle, genuine smile, her brown face softening in a way it rarely did. Tonight it does. Please just be yourself. The dinner was the antithesis of the stressful restaurant scene. It was warm, relaxed, and intimate for the first time in years. Alexandra laughed wholeheartedly, her cold mask completely gone. Louisa entertained them all with stories of her dad's superhero moments, how he once fixed a burst water heater in the middle of the night and rescued a fat, stuck neighborhood cat. Leo listened, captivated, laughing so hard he nearly fell off his chair, his brown face alight with joy. Alexandra realized that while her life was built on billion-dollar transactions, Henry's was built on human connection and genuine service. Alexandra found herself watching Henry in the kitchen, his sleeves rolled up, helping the chef plate the food. His brown forearms were strong and capable. A strange, unfamiliar warmth spread through her chest. She saw the competent, caring doctor blending seamlessly with the humble maintenance worker, a complete man. Later, Alexandra and Henry had a quiet conversation in the library, sipping tea, their brown faces illuminated by the soft lamplight. "How do you manage to be so present?" Alexandra asked, her voice tinged with envy. "I have entire teams for my son, yet I miss everything. I delegate comfort, joy, and basic care. I delegate Leo." Henry smiled sadly, his brown eyes distant with memory. "I don't delegate because I can't afford to. But more importantly, I don't delegate because I realize the hard way that presence is the most precious thing we own. Every time I cut Louisa's pasta or fix a broken toy, I'm securing a memory with her. My time is my only wealth now. Alexandra, you have infinite financial capital, but I have infinite time capital for my daughter." Leo tugged on his mother's hand, his eyes wide with admiration as he watched Henry interact with Louisa. "Mom, Uncle Henry is just like a father to me. He makes things okay." Alexandra froze. Her son's simple, unguarded statement struck the deepest, most sensitive chord in her heart. Leo was voicing the need for the stability and masculine warmth that her work had never allowed her to provide. Alexandra led Henry out to the massive, empty terrace, gazing over the city lights. The night air was cool against their brown skin. "For years, I believed I could buy everything my son needed," she confessed, her voice soft and vulnerable. "But tonight, I realized I bought him loneliness. You gave him 10 minutes of belonging that my entire fortune couldn't purchase." Henry nodded slowly, his brown face thoughtful in the moonlight. "Money creates distance, Alexandra, but love closes it. You just have to choose which one you value more." Alexandra walked to the edge of the terrace, looking out at the city sprawling below. "I spent my life fighting to be seen as a warrior. I built a wall of ice to protect myself from the world and my own grief. But that wall didn't keep the danger out. It kept the love out. Tonight, you didn't just save my company. You saved my heart from freezing over." Alexandra stopped Henry at the mansion's massive oak door. She looked him directly in the eye, not as a CEO, but as a woman making a plea, her brown eyes vulnerable in a way they had never been. "Will you come to the company tomorrow? I need someone I can absolutely trust by my side. I need your clarity. Henry, I need the man who sees the person behind the title." Henry looked down at her, seeing a woman broken by her own success, but now radiating a glimmer of hope. He nodded, his brown face resolute. "For your son, I will be there. I promise to protect the woman he needs." The next morning, Henry walked into the emergency shareholders meeting with Alexandra. Louisa and Leo walked in front of them, their hands linked, a picture of innocent, united strength, their brown faces glowing with confidence. This time, they were not hiding. They were Alexandra's foundation. The tension in the room was suffocating. The conspirator, Clinton Drain, the head of operations, a light-skinned black man with calculating eyes, smirked, ready to present the viral video as proof of Alexandra's incompetence. Clinton, a man who believed power was exclusively earned through ruthless ambition, was confident of victory. Henry stepped forward calmly, commandeering the presentation screen. He quickly and methodically broke down the viral video using his observational and analytical skills, not just as a doctor, but as a former trauma strategist. He proved the video was deliberately filmed by a low-level assistant hired by the head of operations, and the leak was timed precisely to cause maximum damage. He presented medical evidence showing Alexandra's collapse was stress-induced hypoglycemia, a temporary state, not an underlying condition. Then Henry shifted his focus. He didn't just present the facts. He presented a philosophy. "This is not a medical report. It is a character analysis," Henry stated, his voice ringing with authority, looking directly at the shareholders, his brown face commanding respect. "Clinton Drain used Miss Kale's moment of human weakness, her exhaustion, to attempt a hostile takeover. This company is built on strength, and Miss Kale's greatest strength is not her cold logic, but the sheer effort she exerts for her family and her company." The head of operations sputtered in denial, turning bright red beneath his brown skin. "This is outrageous slander. Who is this maintenance man?" Henry produced documented evidence, a digital trail of communications that exposed the entire calculated attempt to strip Alexandra of her leadership, including Clinton's direct instructions to the assistant to film and leak. The shareholders were shocked. They immediately turned on the conspirator, condemning him for his betrayal and profusely apologizing to Alexandra. Clinton was escorted out of the meeting, his reputation and career instantly ruined. A major shareholder, Hilda, the woman from the Lumier Grand restaurant, stood up, addressing the room. Her voice, now respectful, had lost its earlier condescension. "Who is this man? His competence is stunning. Who found this evidence?" Alexandra looked directly at Henry, her eyes filled with gratitude and newfound affection, her brown face glowing with pride. "He is Henry Vale, and he is the only person who never turned his back on me. He is the man who saved my life and reminded me how to be a mother, and from today he is my chief strategy and wellness officer. His job is to remind this entire corporation of the human factor we forgot." The board, witnessing Henry's quiet power, unimpeachable loyalty, and sheer analytical brilliance, immediately offered him a permanent position as the chief health and security advisor for the entire corporation. They understood they were getting a strategist and a doctor disguised as a maintenance worker. Henry, finally finding his purpose again, looked at the contract. He firmly refused the standard terms, his brown face set with determination. "I will only accept if Louisa and Leo are part of this arrangement. My work schedule must allow me to remain a fully present father. They are my priority, not a negotiation point. My presence here is a commitment to a better work-life balance for every parent in this company." Leo ran up and hugged Henry's leg, his small brown face radiant with joy. "Please stay forever. Uncle Henry, we need you here." Alexandra looked at Henry, her defenses finally permanently gone, her brown eyes shining with emotion. "I want you to stay, too, Henry." "As my partner in every sense of the word. We can build a life together that prioritizes our children's laughter over our corporate titles." Louisa clasped Leo's hand, giggling happily, her brown face beaming. "So, are we like brother and sister now? We can share a room in the big house." Henry laughed, a genuine, joyful sound, tears welling in his eyes, his brown face breaking into the widest smile. "I think we just might be." "It seems fate had a different plan for all four of us." He accepted the role not to chase prestige, but to honor his commitment to presence and purpose. Alexandra took Henry's hand, a silent promise exchanged between two people who found love and purpose where they least expected it. Their brown fingers intertwined. They were no longer the cold CEO and the struggling single dad. They were two parents united. The two children ran ahead, their laughter carrying on the wind, their brown faces tilted toward the sun. The setting sun cast 4 long, intertwined shadows across the pavement. A new, unconventional family created not by blood or wealth, but by a shared moment of vulnerability, earned respect, and unconditional love.